No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live on the interweb, good evening, universe. And welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. As you can probably tell, I'm not Drew Mindell. I'm Dave Minuk. And I'm joined, very special guest, back-to-back nights. It was back-to-back Jets games, back-to-back nights. We have a special guest joining us on the Illegal Curve post-game show, all the way from Winnipeg Sports Talk. He is known as Andrew Hustler Patterson. Huss, how's it going?
Dave, things are going great. Enjoyed the game tonight. I thought a really good effort from the Winnipeg Jets, and it's great to chop it up with you here on the program. I know Drew is traveling and coming back. Listen, there's a lot of scuttlebutt on the streets that Ezra Ginsburg has potentially been suspended. I'm not sure if I should put an inquest into ICHR right now, but that being said, I'm very pumped to be sitting down with you talking about this game and lots of interesting stuff around the hockey club as this regular season winds down.
Yeah, for sure, Hassan. And we're always happy to have you join us. You were the first person we had on when we switched over to this format.
That's right.
We're always happy to have you join us here on Illegal Curve. So thanks very much for joining us tonight. We're going to break down the Jets win, a second win for the Winnipeg Jets, back-to-back nights. It's probably a little too late for this Winnipeg Jets club. Got it started. Not surprisingly, Mark Scheifele wasn't going to play. I don't know if you heard this, Huss. I tweeted out the video yesterday of Scheifele suffering the injury to Parker Kelly. And I don't know if you got any blowback from Habs fans. I actually had to mute the tweet because people were saying it was like a conspiracy theory that Mark Scheifele didn't want to play tonight, so he was faking an injury. And I said to Sean last night, that'd be the greatest feat of any player to have that sort of foresight to go, oh, I got an injury, I'm out. But I don't know if did anybody say that to you? Because I heard that and I might
listen. Reem brought that up today on the program, and I did a little looking in, and it clearly illustrates an undeniable fact that Habs fans are some of the biggest psychos in all of sports. and you know, I mean, I think back to around a year ago or whenever it was when the Jets were playing Montreal in that series, and of course the incident that happened game one. And I mean, it was the same thing with you guys. I know the chat room. I mean, it exploded. It was like 4 and 5 times as many people in all the shows.
Yeah.
But the shall we say, the cantankerous nature of Habs fans. And listen, I get it. That was an ugly hit, and there was a lot of emotion around that in the playoffs. But man, some of the theories that get cocked up and offered up as legit from a certain section of the fan base is something to behold. And yes, you were on the receiving end of that in spades last night.
It was wild. I just thought to myself, like, a lot of karma tweets. And then finally I was like, I've had enough. I'm muting this. I can't take it anymore. I don't care. I'm not going to delete it because then it almost looks like you've got something to hide when you delete it. I'm like, I'm just going to mute it because I can't be part of this conversation anymore. So no surprise that Mark Scheifele wasn't playing tonight. He said, I believe Darren Dreger said, before the game got underway that he'll be evaluated in Winnipeg. It didn't look good, of course. So probably low expectation. He'll be back in time maybe to make that, to play on Wednesday when they host Seattle. Maybe he's okay. We'll see. Obviously, there's no point in speculating because we're going to have to wait to hear an update. The Jets are off tomorrow. They're going to be back on the ice on Wednesday. So that'll be our earliest opportunity, Huss, to get some sort of update on Mark Scheifele.
Well, okay, listen, we better get to the elephant in the room right now. I know we want to talk about hockey, but the biggest story is this monster storm coming in. It'll be interesting to see if the Jets do have a morning skate on Wednesday, if the Kraken can get into the city for the game on Wednesday. I think all of that's sort of up in the air, depending on what Mother Nature has for us. And Mother Nature looks like she's got both barreled, cocked, and loaded and ready to blast on us for a number of days. So it'll be a very interesting situation, too, when you consider the few games remaining left in the season. I mean, if that game for whatever reason wasn't able to be played and then the Jets get out on the road, they do have those 3 home games in the last week of the season. I haven't looked at what Seattle's schedule is, but it certainly is a topic that everyone around the city's talking about, and it might be people around the league talking about, depending on whether they're able to play this game on Wednesday.
Although I had to take issue with Gino Reda. I like Gino Reda, but he said something like he saw the weather and it was nasty. I'm like, Gino, it hasn't started snowing yet. That's just Winnipeg in March.
Yeah,
I understand.
This has been frankly gorgeous, to be
perfectly honest. I was
in
in flip-flops today, Gino. Like, it was nice today. It had nothing to do. This is just regular Winnipeg weather. Welcome to the prairies.
Isn't that sad? I mean, we're so fired up, 4 degrees, and you're running around the city wearing flip-flops right now and thinking, man, enjoy this today because it's about to get really bad.
That's right.
Listen, I was at Sal's on Saturday having breakfast, and I'm flipping my phone, and I got that winter storm advisory warning, and I honestly thought it was some sort of practical joke after the winter that we've had, combined with the season that the Jets have had. I mean, I don't think anyone that's listening to this right now deserves what's coming for us, Dave. But anyways, we'll make the most of it. And it'll be interesting to see, as I mentioned, go back to the original point of this, whether this game is able to be played on Wednesday as originally scheduled.
Well, and to your point, Huss, the idea is that Seattle's playing in Calgary the night before. So it's not as if they could be here ready to go. They're going to be in Calgary, and they'll have to kind of fly during when it's considered the storm will have started already at that point. We'll see. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the NHL does. Will they postpone it? Will they? I mean, obviously they'll have to make it up at some point, but it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out for the Jets. But we'll get to that bridge when we come. When it comes. Now we got to focus on tonight's game because the Jets did have an important game. Mikey Esimont, 4th-year pro, the 2016 5th rounder of the LA Kings. He's been a good soldier, 15 goals, 20 assists for the Manitoba Moose, Huss, and quite an opportunity for him after a lot of over 200 games in the AHL to finally get his first chance to play in the NHL. A guy who's really embraced living. I mean, again, I know him from my time covering the Moose, but like from what I've been told, he really embraces being in Manitoba, really enjoys being with this team. So a really good reward for a guy to get into his first game, and especially to do it in a place like Montreal at the Bell Center.
Yeah, listen, that's a special place to make your National Hockey League debut, one of the great cathedrals of the sport here in North America. And listen, I mean, I'll be honest, and I guess part of it is the game. We always seem to be having this conversation. Geez, the fourth line played 5 minutes in this game tonight. Was there opportunities to get them out? Well, I mean, it was sort of a tight back and forth game. It's quite clear that Dave Lowry is coaching these games as if the season is hanging by a thread, whether or not you believe that or are down with that or not. I guess everyone's got their own opinion on the Jets' chances and what they're playing for right now. But I'll tell you what, in the limited time he got out there, I thought he was fine. We're going to be speaking about another member of the Moose that's called up, though. I mean, the guy that really had the monster game, that was Morgan Barron. But as far as Mikey Esimont, I mean, you mentioned about it. He's been a big part of a very successful Moose team, and the Moose really are the epitome of team. Everyone has chipped in. He's played all up and down the lineup in a number of different roles. I'll tell you what, if there is an opportunity at the end of this season for somebody to get up and get their first chance of NHL action, I thought he was a great choice. Although, like many were wondering, David Gustafson, I know he was dealing with COVID, so there might be a little bit of time for him to get back. Would like to see Gus at some point. But for tonight, would have liked to maybe seen a little bit more Mikey Esimont. But congratulations to him on making that first skate in the National Hockey League. And, of course, doing it as part of a win for his hockey club.
Yeah, and the word I got on David Gustafson is that he is out of COVID protocol. The Moose were practicing, apparently working on skills. I will be at practice tomorrow to give that some coverage because, of course, the Jets are off. So it allows me to focus on the Moose, see what's going on at a practice. I watch their games. Sometimes you don't watch their practices as quite as closely as. So it'll be good to see. And again, they've got, I mean, we'll just quickly shoehorn this in. We'll get to the game soon. But 2 more additions, Cap Friendly announced it on Saturday. The Jets made it official today. Henry Nikkanen, the 2019 4th rounder, he signed his ELC. Daniel Torgerson, he also signed his ELC. He's the 2020 2nd rounder. Both guys, interesting prospects. Both will start on Pete. They'll have signed now PTOs with the Moose. So they're going to play for the Manitoba Moose. I'm told the expectation is they'll be there fairly quickly. And they'll get a chance to play, whether we see them in games. This Moose team is deep. They'll probably get into some games, but I mean, they might not play in the playoffs. We'll see how that goes. But good opportunity for these guys to come over to North America, get their feet wet. There's going to be some comfort there, right? A lot of guys who are Swedes and Finns. I was joking about it. Christian Vesalainen's kind of that dual threat. He's a Finnish guy, speaks Swedish, but good opportunity for the Jets to get some prospects into the system, especially forward prospects, which as we know, they don't have a ton of.
Well, and Dave, this is part of a bigger conversation right now that I know you guys and we're having on almost on a daily basis. I mean, what is the organization doing right now? How do you make the most out of, at least with the big club, the final remaining games of the season until an unexpected early exit? And as far as for the Manitoba Moose, how do you get these guys into the lineup, get them experience, but at the same time, maintain what this team has built under Mark Morrison? And, that's a team that is poised to make some noise come Calder Cup playoffs. Bottom line, I think it's great that these two guys are in the fold, signed to contracts right now. We'll be interested. And I guess the real positive thing is that, we're not talking about just a couple of games left in the regular season. I mean, there still is through 3 weeks. I mean, I guess they've got 6+ games. So there could be an opportunity to get some of those games in, even if you're resting a few guys before you go into the actual playoffs. So, listen, it's fun talking Moose right now because there is a lot of excitement around that team in stark contrast to what's happening with the parent club.
That is a good point, but that's a good segue, Huss. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about the game recap brought to you by Betway. This is the Betway game recap. Like I said, brought to you by Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. With a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. You must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. So always play responsibly. That is the key to successful betting, I'm told. Now, here's the thing. The Jets and Habs really didn't get going in the first. Looked like it was going to be of a slower variety. Now, we know the Jets are coming off of yesterday's game in Ottawa. So you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe their legs aren't going to be quite there to start. But it seemed once the shots kind of hit that 3-3 point, I think if I recall correctly, the Habs got the next one to make it 4-3. Jets got the next 5. It seemed to kind of get some life, and both goaltenders were very good in that first period.
Oh my God. Both goaltenders were phenomenal in this game.
That's
and
true.
what a stark difference that was to when these two teams played a few weeks ago on a Tuesday night here.
Wow.
I mean, I got to give Arpon Basu credit from The Athletic. He's been calling Montembeault Dikembe. And ever since I saw that, I'd laugh every time he makes a save. I was kind of hoping on a couple of those $5 he might have done the old no. But yeah, no, listen, I thought the first period was was a good one for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, listen, we've talked about this. I mean, what are we really looking for right now? I mean, we're looking for professional efforts. We're looking for players stepping up and showing that they care, earning that paycheck and trying to instill some faith that, this team hasn't checked out on the season. And I thought they did exactly that. I mean, listen, this was no Picasso by any stretch of the imagination, but there were some really excellent back checks. There was some tenacity on the puck that has been missing at times. I thought that one play that Mason Appleton made where he dove back and got his stick into a spot. I mean, that's exactly what I think we should be seeing right now. I mean, show the fans you care, show the coaching staff that you care, show the organization that you're part of the solution. And I thought a number of guys stepped up in that first period and did exactly that. So listen, it was 0-0, but I think there were some good signs. And again, the wins and losses to me right now are borderline meaningless.
Yeah.
Listen, you want to have the right result and you want the players to be rewarded for it. But it was the way that they played, the commitment to, I think, what Dave Lowry's been trying to get this team to do. And yeah, there'll be some mistakes, but the bottom line, the effort and the commitment was there from the majority of the players that were out there in that first period. And I thought that was a nice way to start the game.
Well, Troy Stevens brings it up because that's the player I was just going to mention to you, Huss. Dylan Samberg. I mean, he factored in on the score sheet, but a play that doesn't factor in on the score sheet was that one he did, the one-on-one play on Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson's been in this league a few years. Dylan Samberg looked like a wily vet the way he played that. Now, Dylan Samberg isn't an 18-year-old kid. He's 23, but it's not as if he's got, 1,000 pro games, but he looked good with that play, backing up Brendan Dillon, taking the puck right off Josh Anderson. And he just continues to look calm. And it's funny because you covered the AHL, the first iteration of the Manitoba Moose. you know how important AHL development is. And I remember I was talking to people who watched Dylan Sandberg in college, and they would tell me he needs time in the AHL. And then you had all these people saying, why isn't Dylan Sandberg in the NHL? He needs to be in the NHL. Well, no, he needed to be in the AHL. He needed to develop. He needed to learn the pro game, which is very different than the college game. But he has looked remarkable since he has come into the lineup. And a lot of people are saying, like, how can you take this guy out? I don't think you can, personally.
Oh, I don't think either. And there is some irony to the fact that amongst the Jets fan base, and like, I don't prescribe to this, but I don't know, it's part of the toxic nature of social media and people with their hot takes. You know, there's a good portion of the fan base. You either like Ville Heinola and think he's going to be great, and at the same time have to crap all over Logan Stanley and vice versa. And to me, it's not that. But the irony of the whole thing, Dave, is that when you look at Dylan Sandberg and how calm, how confident he looks, how effective he looks, I think you're looking at a guy right now, even in a short period of time, that you could make an argument should probably play over both those guys. And of course, he is right now. So listen, I think more of Dylan Sandberg is going to be great for fans to see over the course of this next little bit. Listen, I would like to see Ville get in. I'd like to see Logan Stanley get in. There's a couple other guys. Johnny Kovacevic, I think, has been playing. I mean, you could speak to that. Man, has he been good as of late and really this entire season. So if you're going to spend some time giving some younger players a chance to play, Dylan Sandberg just set the bar as to what you'd want from those players to come in. And I think that's a great challenge to anybody else that gets in, as well as some of the veterans who realize that, geez, you know what? I mean, the organization is going to be giving some auditions to some guys that might be coming for my job next season.
That's right. And you know what, we can talk about the Moose. I'm happy to talk about him now. We can talk about him later. It doesn't really matter. It's always good with me. But you're right. And I've been on board. I've been kind of clamoring the bell for guys to be brought up. Now, the irony, of course, with the Jets is the logjam on the left side. They actually don't have to call any of those guys up because they're all waiver exempt next year. Johnny Kovacevic, not waiver exempt. My expectation is he'll be with the Jets next season. He'll be in that 6th spot or Nate Beaulieu spot. Of course, lots is going to happen with what Chevy does at this summer. You know, whether it's going to be, it's like Weekend at Bernie Part 2. Is this going to be the summer of Chevy Part 2? We'll have to see what happens in that regard, Huss. But, you know, the one guy who I really think the Jets need to bring up is Leon Gawanke, because he'll be subject to waivers next season, and he has had a complete bounce back season. He's looked very good. He obviously took whatever he was told by this coaching staff and worked on it in the summer, because he came back like a different player, more physically strong, more confident, back to being offensive. And he's been very good with Declan Chisholm. They've played, you know, they have a really good relationship, but Chisholm's been out. He had a slew foot like over a month ago, and Gawanke still looked very good. Obviously got the critical goal on Saturday night against the Wolves to give the Moose a point. So there is definitely, I have room for prospects to come up, because I think this is where you need to evaluate these guys. Look at Morgan Barron. I mean, we're going to talk about him throughout this broadcast, Huss, but like, look at what Morgan Barron did when you gave him an elevated role. And that's what I think could happen with some of these other Jets prospects.
Tell you what, at this point in the season, Dave, and we don't need to rehash what has happened all over. God knows we've spent a lot of time talking about it on all of our respective shows. But in these final games of the regular season, you want the team to be inspired. You want them to play with energy. You want there to be opportunity. And I'll tell you what, opening up spots for a young man like Morgan Barron or Dylan Sandberg, I think can have a real positive effect right now. Some will argue, and it's certainly a valid point, that maybe this could have happened earlier. Maybe they could have actually had a little bit more injection of youth and more opportunity for some other players. I mean, that'll be some great debates as we go into the offseason. But right now, and I know we'll get back to the second period when the game actually got pretty darn exciting, the way things started off with some of these players just right in. And the other thing I should mention, we talked about how great the goaltending was. I was not expecting Connor Hellebuck to play tonight.
No, that's a very good point.
And all of a sudden, 37's out there again. And man, 2 back-to-back, just great games from Connor. That's the standard we're used to from Mr. Hellebuck.
No, there's no question about it, Huss. And you're showing my limitations as a host there by pointing out something I should have mentioned off the top, because you're right. I don't think anybody was watching was thinking, okay, well, you're for sure going to put Eric Comrie in. He's been very good. You're confident in Eric Comrie, but you know, this team just continues. And Drew is quick to point out that Hellebuck's numbers in the second game of a back-to-back have been very good this season. So it's not a huge surprise. Dave Lowry held that one a little close to his vest yesterday when he was asked, he was a little cagey whether he was going to start, which goaltender. So
the only reason I say that is if that is the case, and I'm fine with it. I'm the biggest Hellebuck backer, and I play the guy 82 games. I mean, I would consider it. You can't do that, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're playing him tonight against Montreal, where the hell was he in Toronto a couple of Thursdays ago? I mean, that was a game where you were, you had this little run.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to keep doing it. That was when, and listen, I'm not saying at all that was Eric Comrie's fault. Far from it. I mean, the team completely fell apart after a good start. But if you're playing him tonight in this situation in a back-to-back, I kind of wonder how they came to that decision. But there's been a lot of decisions, especially when it comes to goaltending, that I haven't entirely understood. But I'm always fine with seeing 37 in between the pipes.
Yeah, he was certainly good last night, and he was certainly good again tonight. So he picks up back-to-back wins. He's actually on win number 199 in his career. So one away from number 200. Maybe they'll give him the Seattle game so he can accomplish it at home. But we'll see. Probably Eric Comrie. But again, honestly, Huss, I'm with you. I have absolutely no idea when it comes to goaltending. It's funny. Dave Lowry always says, we have a plan. But you always know he's never going to expand on that, right? He goes, we've got a plan. And then he gives kind of that little wry grin. And you're like, well, you're not getting anything out of him. So you can ask him.
And listen, that plan, I think, is subject to change at all times.
Oh, of course.
Listen, I sort of understood that they had, back with that brilliant game that Comrie had earlier in the season against St. Louis.
Yeah.
I was stunned that he played in that game. They said, 100%. Hey, you know what? We planned this for a while. Eric said he knew he was playing for a while. They basically said the same sort of thing for Toronto. Well, if that's the case, you're telling me that your plan all along was to go back-to-back with Hellebuck against Ottawa and Montreal of all teams in a week when you have 5 games in 7 days? As I said, that's I guess it's above my pay grade because that was a little bit of a head scratcher. As I said, though, helped him win a hockey game tonight because Connor Hellebuck was full marks, as was his opponent Dikembe in the other net.
Well, let's start with the second period. Good former Jet killer, former Jet Yoel Armia. He bats that one out of the air. I don't think baseball's big in Finland. They've got that kind of hybridized version of it, but he looked like he was ready for opening day this weekend because he bats that puck out of the air, and the Habs have a 1-0 lead 29 seconds into the middle frame.
Yeah, listen, this was one of those plays that, of all the good things the Jets did tonight, this play probably will end up in the video room with a couple of pointers. I think it was Dvorak essentially went in. There was 4 Jets and seemingly, we've talked a lot about how easily the Jets gave up the middle of the ice. Well, this was exhibit A for that. I mean, the players were sort of playing in a box, and he just sort of went right through and got it in on Connor Hellebuck. Hellebuck made a great save, and then some great hand-eye by Joel Armia, the artist formerly known as Joel Armia, now Yoel, exactly. to get it in. But, to the Jets' credit, they didn't sulk about it. They got right back on the horse, had some real strong shifts, and before you knew it, we were back to even.
Well, and we were back to even how? Because Morgan Barron, I mean, talk about opportunity, right? I mean, what do they say? When opportunity cometh knocketh, answer the door. Well, number 36 sure looked like he's opened the door, but he's not going to allow it to close again, because he looks very comfortable on that line, whether it's line 1, line 2. Pascal Vincent, former Moose coach, current Columbus assistant coach, never cared for line numbers. He always said that was more of a media construct than his own. But regardless, Morgan Barron looked really good. I mean, first of all, you got to give Nikolai Ehlers a lot of credit. I think Nikolai Ehlers, and I know he got the assist on the Barron goal. He's up to a 7-game point streak, 12 points on it. Ties his, I think NHL PR said, ties what he said in 2016-17. But since he's come back, he has looked like a man possessed. Like, he really looks dialed in. He's always got the puck on his stick, and he's just finding guys. And like that play, I mean, you've got to respect Ehlers' shot because it's so good. And then he dishes it off to Barron, and then Barron puts a top corner. But really nice for him to kind of get that one out of the way and get the Jets back feeling good fairly shortly after, obviously, that the Habs had opened up the score.
Barron was awesome tonight. And the one thing that was unfortunate was that his brother, who was just acquired by the Montreal Canadiens, wasn't able to play. He just scored his first goals in the National Hockey League last week, and would have been a real big moment for the family. That being said, he didn't need his brother to get himself up for this game. I think he realized that the absence of Mark Scheifele, the opportunity to get up into that top 6, might be the best opportunity he's ever had in the National Hockey League. I didn't follow too much about where he was playing when he was with the New York Rangers, but right. I mean, this is the guy that was getting kind of bit minutes on that 4th line, moved up a little bit, and this was a glorious opportunity. And my God, did he make the most of it? I mean, that line, Dave, at times really, really looked good. And he used his size. He was tenacious on the puck. He was strong. I mean, won a number of puck battles in the zone and was able to get it to Stastny or Ehlers and keep things going on. And listen, he made no mistake on the play, and credit to Dylan Sandberg as well for being involved in that. We mentioned that he had 2 points. And then the dish that he had on Paul Stastny's goal was also a big league play. And tell you what, he's 6'4", 220, something like that. This is a guy that the Jets obviously were very keen on to get in the Andrew Kopp trade. And at the beginning, it becomes a little bit of an afterthought until you see these guys play. And listen, I was really impressed with him with the Moose. I've been even more impressed in his time as he's risen up the Jets depth chart and had an opportunity to play with a couple very skilled players. And I'll tell you what, it looked like Ehlers and Stastny enjoyed playing with a young, energetic player that knew what an opportunity they was. And that line was great all night.
Yeah, and you know what, Huss, I mean, it's talk about Paul Stastny. That's a nice segue to the second Jets goal. Of course, the veteran, doesn't look like a veteran, looks like a young guy. I was going to originally say this was all about the youth, but really, Paul Stastny at 36, he's turned back the clock. He's thrown the clock away. You know, the clock doesn't exist for Paul Stastny anymore because he's now hit the 20-goal mark, something he hasn't done since 2013-14 when he had 25. So now suddenly Paul Stastny has 20 goals. I mean, I tweeted this out. I said, how many people anticipated Paul Stastny being a 20-goal, 20-assist guy at 36 years of age? I don't know how many. I mean, he has just been so good for this team. I thought Dave Lowry made an interesting comment when they were talking about trading, and he said, well, you know, sometimes with guys, I mean, I'm going to paraphrase, but essentially about a guy you may keep in the summer. And I thought that was an interesting comment. Now, he didn't say it that aggressively, but it made it sound like they may have something cooking. You know, never know. But he is such a smart player. And, you know, even though he doesn't have the speed that he had a few years ago. I mean, when you have that level of intellect and you think the game the way he does, I mean, look how good he can be with guys like Ehlers. I mean, they seem to be finding a lot of chemistry. And Morgan Barron now, you're like you said, Huss. I mean, what nice. It did seem like such a good, you know, and again, it's a small sample size, right? We don't have 20 games to look at this. But for what we've seen in this small sample size, they sure seem like a nice trio.
I think that those guys, both the veterans and Barron, provided a lot of energy. And sometimes this team has had none of it this year. I mean, you know, I talk a lot about Brendan Gallagher. And I've been thinking about him over the last couple of weeks. You know, with as horrible a season as the Montreal Canadiens have had, this is a guy that goes out and Paul Maurice used to say that Blake Wheeler could embarrass people with effort. Brendan Gallagher plays the game at a level and with a motor that just inspires your teammates, and that's a level of energy. And I don't know if there's analytics on that sort of thing. I truly believe players like that make their teammates better. And I thought the Winnipeg Jets had a lot of that tonight, and I think Morgan Barron was part of that on that line along with Stastny and Ehlers. And as I said, I think those guys jumped at the chance to do exactly that. You know what? Listen, we know what's happening with this season. This team is not going to be playing in the playoffs. I think there's going to be a massive audit of this club. I think there's going to be major changes, I would assume, to the coaching staff. And I certainly believe the core and the leadership group. And, you know, we heard it last night, Dave, from Paul Stastny after the Ottawa game. I mean, Paul Stastny says some of the frank things that need to be said that you expect from your leaders. Blake Wheeler never says it. Mark Scheifele never says it. And to be honest, I can't remember the last time they really spoke, certainly Mark, after a loss, period. But Paul Stastny, especially, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if you do have some significant move of some of the players that I just mentioned from that leadership group, and you're moving maybe with a couple of younger players coming in and passing the torch to the Dubois and Connors and Ehlers in the room, I think Paul Stastny is a big piece of that as really the conscience of the Winnipeg Jets. If he wasn't before, he should be. And I tell you what, you just nailed it. I mean, 20 goals this season. He certainly has not fallen off at all. And Listen, I don't think anyone should be talking contract extension with any member of the organization over the course of this week, considering what the forecast is. But once they get a little out of this, they can remind him that there is a spot for him. And I think he can be a big part of the solution going forward here with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, probably not best to try and sign guys when in the middle of April, you're getting major dumps, and every headline is worst snowstorm in decades. Probably not a good idea to say, hey, do you want to sign in Winnipeg? Maybe don't charge us too much. So
what do you think about hanging around?
Yeah. Maybe wait till those golf courses are open. Hockey players like golf. So maybe wait till that happens. And then, when you can show Paul Stastny KP, that's when you're going to hook him. That's when you're going to know he's locked into Winnipeg. At least that's what would get me in my West K roots us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That was the case before we lost our Arby's. And now we are, how do we have an NHL team, Dave Manouk? Yes. And no Arby's. I mean, there's some things in the world that just don't make sense. That's one of them.
That's a very good point. So that second
Love
period,
to get Ezzy's take on that.
He's actually in the drive-in at the Arby's going, why are they not answering my order? Where is my food? He's like, I'm supposed to be doing the Illegal Curve post-game show right now, and Dave and Huss are waiting for me, but he can't figure out why his Arby's is not quite there.
Beef and cheddar, please, Ez.
He'll eat anything. He's a human garbage disposal. Third period starts us. Josh Anderson, nice tip of the Jeff Petrie shot. Suddenly it's 2-2. What did you see on this play? And did you think that I thought, my personal take, because that happened, I think about 6 minutes into just over 6 minutes into the third period, I thought the Jets were sitting back a little too much. Monbo's played phenomenal, and you really could have had quite easily 5 or 6 goals. Stastny
just Ehlers, in the second period alone.
Yeah, like Dubois, Connor, like every guy. I think almost every guy had a grade A chance that was stopped by him. So the score easily could have been significantly higher for the Winnipeg Jets. It wasn't, and then I felt like the Jets sat back a little bit to start that third period. I thought they were playing a little too defensively. We're all for the Jets playing defensively responsible, but I thought they were being a little bit too tentative and not assertive enough. And as a result, Montreal took it to them and ties the score.
You know what? I don't have the numbers, but I do kind of recall around that time the Jets were also having a tough time in the faceoff circle. And when you're playing catch up and trying to get the puck often, especially when you're in your own zone, there's going to be chances that come up. And listen, that was an absolute rocket. I'll give this. I believe it was Neil Pionk that was kind of tied up with Anderson, and I thought he was doing a relatively good job.
Schmidt.
Oh, it was Schmidt, excuse me.
Yeah.
Of keeping, his stick out of spot. And listen, what did it hit him in the knee sort of thing and just deflected? Listen, puck's on net, right? The Montreal didn't have a lot of other success. They got one on and it got past Connor Hellebuck, but for the most part, that's a almost impossible puck to save with the speed that it was deflected on it. And Connor just got right back on the horse and continued going after that one, tied it up.
Well, that's just it, right? You've got Connor Hellebuck, who is playing well, and you're right, Huss. It's almost impossible, not impossible, but it's very difficult for a goaltender to make that save. That's not an easy one on Connor Hellebuck. 5 minutes later, though, what a 3-on-2 Pierre-Luc Dubois to Kyle Connor. He puts it kind of in Evgeny Svechnikov's skates. Maybe that's where he likes it. He scores, and it was amazing because he just kind of curled and then ripped it on net. That's his 7th goal of the year. He's 1 point away. He's got 7 goals. 12 assists. He's 1 away from 20, which would be, a milestone for him. I said this, early on when he was with Connor and Dubois in the season, and he kind of caught fire, what found money he is. But, he's also another guy, Huss, and we talk about this. You need guys who have personality, and you need guys who are light, because the Jets are a serious team. It can be very annoying quite often because there isn't a lot of, as Coach Noel used to say, joy in Joyland. So you sometimes want to have a little bit of a lively group. Nate Schmidt brings that. I think Evgeny Svechnikov, when we've seen his mic'd up sessions, he too brings that element. And I think that, again, that chemistry he seems to have with Connor and Dubois, it was evident on that play, and it was a nice goal by him to give the Jets a 3-2 lead.
Well, listen, he had to start, making the most of one of these chances sooner or later. Yeah. You can only be on that line with those players for so long without coming through. And I believe they said that was his first goal in 20 games. That sort of caught me off guard.
Since the last Habs game, I believe, is what they said on the broadcast.
Oh, well, regardless, I mean, I think at times we really see some good things from Svechnikov. I mean, sometimes he does some things that a young player does. Some temper gets the best of him at times, and the odd penalty. But listen, there's a reason why he was a first-round pick. I'm still puzzled as to how the Jets got him for nothing, and he was basically cut loose by Stevie Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings in the situation that they're in. But I think this was a step forward for Svechnikov, and it wouldn't surprise me at all, Dave, if over the next few games we see him pop a couple more. He does seem to sort of be the guy that gets a little streaky. When he gets hot, it's hot, and he's feeling it. And I'll say this: you couldn't be in a better position than riding shotgun with 80 and 81 right now, because listen, Kyle Connor has had a brilliant season. Dubois, even when he's sort of struggling goal-wise, what he's going to bring each and every night, and he generated a ton of great opportunities tonight, and ended up being Svechnikov that got the one in, and huge goal for the Winnipeg Jets, ended up being the GWG.
Yeah, for sure. And then it was going to be an interesting fight to the finish. I thought once again, Josh Morrissey has, and we'll talk a little bit more about him, but there was an interesting article on NHL.com. I think Tim Campbell wrote it today. I'm not 100% certain. I referenced it. I had it in the links, so I should know. I read the article, didn't necessarily catch the writer, but usually Jets related stuff is written by Tim Campbell. And it was talking about his leadership. And I said, and this is my personal opinion, that once Blake Wheeler is no longer wearing the C, whenever that is, Josh Morrissey should be wearing it. He signed to a long-term deal. He's committed to the city. And there is nobody more respected by his teammates, by the media, I think by fans, than that guy. He's well-spoken. He doesn't like losing, but he's able to compartmentalize it. And to me, he is the guy who will wear a C. Maybe he won't, but I think he should wear that C after Blake Wheeler, is his time comes up with the Jets, because, obviously what he dealt with last year, and he dealt with it quietly. He didn't obviously publicize it. Was something that nobody can imagine how hard that would be to go through something like that. I mean, people deal with it, but it's not easy. And then he's just been phenomenal. He's just been the Josh Morrissey we knew, and that play, the confidence he had to take that puck in front of his own net and then dish it off to Lowry, who finished it off into the empty net. It was an impressive play, I thought, by a guy who's just feeling confident in his game right now.
I'll echo all the things that you just said about Josh Morrissey, except I'll include Adam Lowry in that category as well, of a guy that's around that has incredible respect from his teammates. And listen, I'm in no hurry for them to immediately have to decide on who's the captain of the Winnipeg Jets and all that. I honestly think that in some ways it will be, organic. And I think we've already seen guys step up this year. I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois is in that conversation. I mean, a Kyle Connor, who's a star player, if he's going to be that guy going forward. The bottom line is, and I believe it was Mike McIntyre that talked about like a changing of the guard when it comes to that leadership group. And I jokingly said to Mike, was this a hostile takeover? In that, it's not like these guys are just stepping up and doing it themselves this year. And, as we go forward, I think all of these guys are going to have opportunities to show that they can, be more important in that role. Because, let's face it. This team, since Andrew Ladd left, has been, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Paul Maurice. And, I wouldn't be surprised if that triumvirate, we already know one part of it's gone, but it could look very, very different. And at that point, there'll be opportunities for guys to step up and show that they are captain material. They'll show they're on the leadership. But to be honest with you, Paul Stastny's a perfect example of this. You don't need a letter on your jersey to set by example to be a leader right now. And the Jets have a number of those guys. I think giving them more opportunity to do exactly that will be something as we go forward.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And look, the Jets win the game. They are 5 points back. Plan the parade, folks. The parade should be planned. No, we're not going to crush hopes and dreams. Obviously, as everybody knows, the chances are still extremely, extremely remote, like under 5%. I think they're under 2.2%, to be honest with you. But the reality is it ain't over till it's over. And so the Jets keep on playing, and folks will keep on tuning into our show and your show. So, look, they get a little bit of hope. They've got a 2-game winning streak going here. They're still far behind Vegas. They're 3 points back of Vegas, 5 points back of Dallas. And of course, Dallas has 2 games in hand. So it doesn't look good, but it's interesting in the sense that I mean, I think Sean brought this up yesterday. We were talking about when the Jets at the 15-16 team, when they went on the run and then ended up getting, everybody was mad because they were winning at the end, and everybody's like, what are you doing? You're going to get a worse draft pick. And I remember saying back then, which, feels like it was like a minute ago, it was already a number of years ago, Huss. But I said then, players don't care. Players don't care about draft picks. Nobody cares about a guy who's going to be there in 5 years or 6 years. So they're going to keep playing and they're going to keep winning because that's, players have integrity and they don't want to, not everybody, of course, but most of these guys are competitive. That's how they got to the NHL. And most of these guys don't want to take nights off. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of, finishes up. But like I just said, I thought it was kind of funny that the way people are talking about that.
Yeah, no. It's, it'll be a topic we'll continue to kick around here for a while. I have a feeling, Dave. That
is 100% true. Well, that has been the Betway game recap, which is brought to you, not surprisingly, by Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. You must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Well, we are going to head to our first and only commercial break once I send us there. And then Huss and I will come back and we'll talk about whatever we want because we've already talked about the game. We don't want to talk about the weather anymore, Huss. Maybe we'll talk about a topic I like to talk about, the Manitoba Moose, but we'll talk about some more about the Jets and some of these players and how they've stepped up and what it's looked like, like I said, to see a Morgan Barron kind of emerge with this opportunity. We'll get to that as soon as we go and hear from our sponsors right now.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
And we're back on the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am Dave Manook, your temporary host. That is Andrew Hustler Patterson from Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're breaking it down. We're doing a little collab. 2 of America's Most Wanted. Same place, same time.
The Z in that tweet you dropped earlier completely made my day, Dave. That's the way it's done.
Yeah, I knew it. I was like, I got to be authentic. I got to keep a 2-pack would not look favorably on me if I did it any other way. I know Ezzy is seen as the rap guy. I'm the EDM guy, but I do have some 90s rap that I listen to. So I'll occasionally throw a shout out.
You're the EDM guy. I can just see you bouncing around one of those summer festivals and just like a Speedo suspenders with like a big sucker in your mouth, just giving her Pauly D style with the fist pumps.
Yeah, I got like that Borat onesie with the green.
Those are showstoppers at the big summer festivals, dude.
I know.
Think about it if you haven't already.
Oh, Huss, you should. I mean, like I said, you know what? Ezzy and Drew always know we have a very short window when we're not doing this show. Once that last show ends, it's like I just disappear into the Manitoba forest. Like they're like, "Where's Manook?" You might know by my Twitter, but I don't communicate with those guys. I am just in the woods. I'm in the lakes. I'm anywhere in Manitoba other than being around Ezzy and Drew.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the Dave Manook Travel Manitoba tweets from later on this week. I'll be paying attention to @ICDave on Twitter.
Yeah, I think IC Dave is going to be playing Fortnite actually all day on Thursday. So I'll be closer to doing that than going out and venturing out right now, Huss. There's probably not going to be very much Travel Manitoba, Explore MB, if you will. Not much of an Explore MB in the mush. We'll see. Although
I know there's a lot of folks actually, in all seriousness, like in the chat that are from outside of the city. And heads up, people, get your supplies ready because these roads. I mean, sounds like it's good. Things are going to be impassable for a couple days in and around here. And I know we touched on it earlier. We'll see what that means for the game on Sunday, because I believe the Kraken play the Calgary Flames tomorrow night, and then are scheduled to come to Winnipeg later on. Do you remember there was a legendary game, and I believe it was against the New Jersey Devils at some point in the 80s, I think, and there was a massive blizzard, and I believe the count for the game was under 1,500 people for an NHL game, which is by far, well, up until COVID happened, by far the lowest crowd ever.
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember.
One of those things where, later on there's 10,000 people that will say they're one of the 1,500, much like the 50,000 that were there to see Solani shoot the puck down and all that.
The last game, the Gretzky game, like everybody has, and by the way, I think actually it was like less than that, Huss. I think it was like 600 something went, saw that game. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of remarkable, really. But like you said, we'll have to wait and see. As of right now, we know the game is on. The Jets' next opponent, the revenge game for Mason Appleton. Will he bring it on his former club, the team that traded him away as if he meant nothing to them? So, but you know what, I mean, Mason Appleton, what a good fit. He's returned to this Jets club. I mean, you knew how well he was liked. I used to hear from people tied to the organization how much they liked him. And, here's a guy, homegrown, started on the 4th line with the Manitoba Moose, worked his way up, AHL Rookie of the Year, gets up to the 3rd line, forms a really good dynamic relationship with Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry. You got to think, if you're the Jets organization, especially knowing you have control for him for at least one more year, how excited they are for him to be at least back in the especially when you traded away Nathan Smith, the rights, I should say, the Nathan Smith, who obviously signed with Arizona. I believe it was today, actually, or yesterday, maybe. Was it yesterday or today? Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. But anyways, the point is Nathan Smith signed. They needed to kind of get that back in the stock, because we could talk about the Moose, all the Jets prospects on the Moose, but most of them are defensemen, right? They don't have a ton of forwards. So to get a guy like Mason Appleton, a middle 6 guy, I think is a huge boost for this Jets club.
Hey, I'm a huge Mason Appleton fan. Was very sorry to see the Jets lose him in the expansion draft. And listen, I know a lot has been made about what the Jets did and didn't do at the deadline. I mean, I think their situation predicated they had to trade Andrew Kopp. It was a no-brainer. I thought Chevy did a good job on what came back in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
But the Mason Appleton trade was the one that stood out to me as to get him back, making $900,000 and RFA at the end of this year for a 4th-round pick. Absolute no-brainer. And, listen, he played every single game last year, stapled to the side of Adam Lowry. I think there's some real potential for those guys to get back together in a full season next year and be an effective line in the role that they play. And you know what? Tonight, I thought was a perfect example of some of the things that he brings to the table. I mean, he was tenacious in the offensive zone, great on the forecheck. They did manage some great opportunities. But it was the play that I brought up before, the incredible effort on that back check, delaying out to, prevent a glorious scoring opportunity. The Winnipeg Jets just plain and simple need more of that, Dave. And, if Mason Appleton can provide that and, do a bit of leading by example now that he's a bit of an older player, I think it's going to be a great deal for the Winnipeg Jets going into the next couple seasons, presuming that he's still around.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question about it, Hassan. And the other player, like I said, we've talked a little bit about Morgan Barron, we've talked a little bit about Dylan Sandberg, but it was funny. Like, I don't know if you saw, the Jets tweeted out before the game, guys watching Mikey Esimont take his hot lap, and I think two of the guys were Dylan Sandberg and Morgan Barron. I thought, isn't it ironic? They're like the guys supporting him. I'm like, these guys were just doing their own hot laps like a minute ago. So I was communicating with Daniel Fink, the Moose play-by-play voice and obviously head of communications for the team. And we were talking about, like, I said to him, this has got to be the most that you've ever had sent up to the Jets and made their debut. Obviously, COVID plays a role. These aren't all because of injury. It's because if guys were held out, even when they were healthy, they could have played, but because they had COVID, they weren't obviously able to. But to have 7 guys make their NHL debuts, and I tweeted this, and I think you'll probably agree with me. How important is it? Like, Morgan Barron was already playing well with the Moose, but how significant is it going to be if he can keep up this level? And I don't expect him to for the next, 8 games or whatever it is. But how important is this going to be for Morgan Barron to go back to the Manitoba Moose for that Calder Cup run with the confidence he's now achieving in the NHL?
Oh, listen, I think it'll be great for the Moose. But, big picture, thinking about the Winnipeg Jets, I think he has a glorious opportunity with the guys that are out of the lineup, and I don't expect them back anytime soon. I guess I shouldn't speak to the Wheeler because I'm not really too sure the severity of that. But, I mean, listen, we saw Cole Perfetti hurt his shoulder, and how long has it been since we've seen him? I mean,
coincidentally, the last Seattle game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not holding my breath at any point soon to see Mark Scheifele return, considering where we are in this season. So Morgan Barron's going to have a great chance. And listen, he came here and everyone said, oh, this is a guy that, is going to be, he can probably play in your bottom 6. I'll tell you what, he looked pretty good in the top 6 tonight playing with Ehlers and Stastny. And listen, when everyone's healthy and you got your full roster, maybe there's not a spot for him there. But I'll tell you what, you go up and perform like he did tonight for a number of games, you're certainly playing yourself into an option for the upcoming year or when a coach wants to change things up. So I just thought his game was such a positive tonight. And, a big part of that was the guys that he was playing with as well. But listen, they won the hockey game. That line was the line that created it. And Morgan Barron with a goal and an assist and some great play along the boards as well. Really acquitted himself well. And I know a lot of people, both here in this chat and online, pretty excited to see what the new member of the organization did today in the game.
Yeah, no, Huss, I guess we'll kind of sum it up. And I've got to pick a Tough Duck winner for the toughest comment. I actually should probably be picking 2 Huss because I didn't pick one last game. Usually that's Ezzy's job. I'm trying to do it all. I'm hosting. I'm looking at the chats. I'm trying to keep it all. I'm trying to keep the trolls out of the chat. Apparently there was a Leafs troll. He was bugging all the fine folks in our chat. So I gave him a timeout. I think he might be back. Oh, there he goes. But
he got thrown over the top rope now.
But he might be back. It doesn't matter. Anyways, John, just play nice in the sandbox. You can be here. I don't care if you're. Why would I care if you're a Leafs fan? Doesn't bother me. Doesn't
Chill
bother
out,
anyone.
John.
But it's just have some fun. You can have fun in the chat. It just doesn't need to be constant trolling 100% of the time. Have some fun. This
Thanks,
is about
John.
fun. This is entertainment. You got Hustler, you got Manuk. I mean, this is the meeting of the minds. This is not something that happens every day. So try and enjoy it.
Yes, Dave.
Like, come on, folks. This is like, I don't want to have to preach at you, John, but like you're seeing something that doesn't have. This is like a solar eclipse.
What is your method, by the way, for picking the tough duck comment of the day? Have you identified a few contenders, or do you just now race through the chat trying to see something that catches your eye?
I did highlight one. Now the problem is, generally, Huss, as you know, it's Ezzy who does the tough duck. I'm usually revving up and getting ready for a Manuk Moose minute right now. Drew and Ezzy have blathered the entire show. I've kept mostly silent, because I leave people wanting to hear more, not less, like those other two guys. But the problem is, then once the Moose minute gets going, I'm ready to go. I'm champing at the bit. And that's all I'm thinking about. Got to talk about the Moose because that's my time to shine. I got a short window usually. Although the Manuk Moose minute has expanded to minutes, so I have a little more time now, Huss. But
hey, you know what? The Moose are a great story right now, and you've done an amazing job. I mean, for a number of years covering this team. And to be honest, when many of us are trying to find some positive stories, some things to be excited about, what? If you haven't been paying attention to the Moose, you really should be. There's a few more games at home, and then we're going to see a number of these players that could very well be key performers for the Jets in the future, playing in playoff hockey downtown at Canada Life Center. I can't wait for the Moose playoffs and the ice too, for that matter. I mean, it sucks that we won't have NHL playoffs downtown this year, but we got two really good hockey teams that are certainly worthy of people's time and attention.
Well, there's no question about it. And, the Winnipeg Ice, they set their I think it's the 22nd and 23rd of April. That's when they kick off their playoffs. So that's coming up right away. We know the Moose clinched their playoff spot, but of course we don't know when. It looks like they're going to play the Milwaukee Admirals. That's the way it would be if they finished right now. Coincidentally, that's the team they played the most this season, 11 times already, the 12th time coming up on the 24th.
Good old American League schedule. I
love it. Love it. So they're playing the Rockford Ice Hogs. That's another team that they could potentially see. So we'll see how it all, unfolds, if you will. But you're right, Huss. I mean, I keep saying, like, in and above, the hockey's pretty good. It's the second best. You can say the KHL's better. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know enough about the KHL. I don't
even know if the KHL exists anymore, man.
Well, I mean, like, it's so weird. It's funny because today, actually, for the first time, probably in like a month, I actually went to check on Dmitry Reshevsky, the Jets' fifth-round pick from 2021, because I used to be paying really close attention to him. And then just they stopped their season after the Olympics, and then they canceled it and they went right to playoffs. Anyways, I saw he had 2 goals and an assist, but Dynamo got eliminated. So I think they're in the finals right now. But you're right. The KHL's a different league. It's hard for us to follow it here in North America.
And to be honest with you, I mean, not to get into geopolitics and the horrible things that are happening over on the other side of the world, but
right.
I mean, Chibrikov, Reshevsky, Russian players eligible in this year's NHL draft. I mean, I think we are in a totally uncharted territory right now, Dave. It may work in one of two ways. I mean, I could see maybe teams going with a real push to try and get those players over and away from what's going on there and coming to North America and coming into the organizations. On the other side of things, I mean, there'd be many players that, it just may no longer be feasible to get them over. And certainly I think teams are going to be very, very weary about drafting Russian prospects going into the draft. And listen, I know that is about, number 1,000 on issues coming out of what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, but it is a hockey show. We're talking about some of these prospects, and it certainly is going to be a story that I think we both follow, but will be fascinating to see how it affects things in the short term, as well as, I mean, going into next season. I mean, this situation is not just going to end in a week and everything's going to be back to normal.
No, you're 100% right, Huss. So you're right, and there's guys who are playing right now who are over here, and we'll have to see how it all plays out. But like I said, I'll just wrap it up briefly. But, the one reason why I say people need to pay attention, and I've got 4 tickets to the Moose and Ice Hogs game on Friday. I gave away the tickets already for Saturday. These are in the illegal curve zone, as I've coined it. I don't think the Moose love that name so much, but they're right up against the glass, and they give you a real good view. So we got 4 tickets to give away. I've got Tough Duck Dukes to give away. There's lots to give away, Huss. There's not a lot of time left in the show. We're going to try and wrap it up fairly soon, but the most important thing, like I said, go and watch this team, because first of all, I think I saw the Moose are charging like $16.50 to go see a playoff game. You don't get to see that very often, and I don't need to go over it, but I probably will just, for the sake of argument, look at all the guys you're going to be able to watch. Heinola, Sandberg, Kovacevic, Lundmark, Gavanke, Chisholm. I might have said one of those guys twice. Point is, there's a lot of, that's just the defensively. Barron, Gustafsson, Reichel, Malott. Then you got all the role players. Esamon, Pagansky, Johnson. I mean, there's probably so many guys right now I'm forgetting. It's insane how good Vesalainen. I mean, I got to tell you, Huss, there's probably no Jets prospect. He's not a prospect anymore. But there's probably no Jets player that will have a more important postseason than Christian Vesalainen.
I couldn't agree more. Listen, for all the talk about certain young players not getting opportunity, Christian Vesalainen has as much as any prospect I can remember in recent history. And listen, he struggled with it. There were many nights where he was invisible. I think it was a difficult situation for him playing in a very low minute role on a team. Yeah. But listen, when you get that opportunity, you got to find a way to make the most out of those minutes and show the coach that you're deserving of more. And that simply didn't happen. Now, listen, he was a first round pick. He still is a young man. I mean, this isn't it for him, but I would agree with you that I think going into these Calder Cup playoffs, I think the onus will be on Christian Vesalainen to be a different player than we saw with the Winnipeg Jets and to earn another shot with the club next season. Because overall, this season was a disaster for Christian Vesalainen, but I think he does have an opportunity to salvage something out of what's been a very disappointing campaign.
Absolutely. So let's give a tough duck toque away. We're going to go give it to Roscoe. I think Roscoe's won before, but Huss, you know what? In this weather, with this snowmageddon coming, you might need a second toque. It may not be a bad idea to have to own a second toque. So Roscoe had this comment earlier in the show. The injection of Sandberg and Barron into the lineup is exactly what the Jets needed. Aggressive, gritty, physical, passionate, and edgy players. Guys who are hungry. That's what people want to see. That's what people want to be entertained by. So I think this is a good comment by Roscoe. I think it's the toughest comment of the day. I think it's it's talking about physicality. So it is in fact a tough comment by Roscoe. So send me an email, dave@illegalcurve.com with your name and address, and I will forward it to Ezzy. We can get that guy to do some work, and he'll send it off to Tuck.
Good luck with that. Just on this comment, though, I mean,
yes.
I would say aggressive, gritty, passionate. These are everything that I want to be ticking off the box right now. I mean, I can handle mistakes.
Right.
I can handle a lot of things. What I can't handle is the team checking out on this season. And this is a gut check for a lot of players that never imagined that they'd be in this situation, but they are. And the insertion of some young players with so much excitement and energy, I think, did wonders for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. But there was a lot of other guys that stepped up their game as well, in the absence, of course, of both Wheeler and Mark Scheifele.
Well, speaking of guys stepping up in the absence of players, I'm going to have to give a big shout out, big thanks to you, Huss, because the show might have been a bit difficult if it was an extended Manuk Moose minute for the entirety of the show. So a big thanks to you for joining and a meeting of the minds between Illegal Curve, hockey, and Winnipeg Sports Talk. So big thanks to Huss for joining us tonight, for being part of the post-game show.
Hey, you know what, Dave? My pleasure. I mean, it's always fun to chop it up after these games. You guys have been doing such a great job all season long, and great chat to, connect with. I mean, I know the majority of folks are quite familiar in the chat, but if people are not familiar with what we're doing every day, Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube, hit us up, hit this red subscribe button, and we're live every day at 1:00 Central, Monday to Friday. Then we get to game night and turn it over to the boys for some of the best post-game coverage around. I do have to tell you, this is a credit to you. Obviously, I'm very proud of what we've done, Kenny and Rennie. It's amazing. We're just over a year from the lights being turned out on that station. And, through so many people, we've created a really, really cool new digital space for what in a lot of ways was what 1290 was, and sort of that heartbeat of the sports community. So happy to be a part of it along with you guys. And certainly none of it happens without the people supporting us, especially the people coming out here in the chat, participating, telling other folks. And it's great. So we'd love to see you. If you haven't seen the show before, Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube, hit the sub, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1.
Well, it's funny. I don't want to sound hokey, but I every time I reflect on it, I think to myself, and I was, as soon as this thing happened, I said to the guys, we're not missing a beat. We've got the infrastructure in place.
You did it.
We're
you
not
didn't miss
missing
a damn show.
We're not missing a show.
So
I told the
great.
boys. I said, but then I stuck to the guns. I said, guys, this is the way we got to go forward. This is the way, because you know what it is? It's the engagement we get with the fans. And honestly, like that to me, like you were like a heartbeat of Winnipeg radio. So I mean, I don't have to tell you what it was like, but sometimes it's like a vacuum, right? Like you're talking to yourself, and we knew in the dungeons of 1290 in that dingy studio, sometimes it'd be dark, and you'd be looking at the lawman, I'd be looking at Ezzy and Drew, and like you don't have that same level of engagement. You get the phone calls, or you get text, the text line, or you get tweets, but you wouldn't have what we have right here, which is that idea of a community that's sprung up. That's why every tweet, whenever I send it out, I say, join the conversation, because, whether they're actually part of the conversation you and I are having, or they're having their own, fighting the troll, or just in general engaging each other, it's just an incredible community that has sprung up and is created, through Winnipeg Sports Talk, through Illegal Curve Hockey, and through Kenny and Rennie.
You know what? You nailed it. And listen, I mean, I know still for you guys and for us, there's more people that consume the show via podcast than are jumping on YouTube. But for those folks that are listening to this on the podcast and haven't checked out the YouTube, I mean, if you have the opportunity to get on it live, and that's really when it's fun. I mean, people going back and forth with each other, talking about what's happening. But even afterwards, the ability to see the guys do what they're doing, see guests as well, and see what everyone's saying, I think adds so much more to just the traditional audio product. But at the end of the day, wherever you're getting the content, folks, whether it's on the podcast or whether it's on YouTube, we certainly appreciate it. And God knows this hockey team's given us no shortage of things to talk about. Not all of them fun to talk about, but tell you what, we know the passion in this market for sports in general, and especially our local teams, starting with the Winnipeg Jets. And it's not surprising we've had the feedback that we've had so far this year through a lot of disappointments and a real frustrating year. But the bottom line is people care about this team. And I know people are going to be very interested as to what happens in these final games of the season. And then when the rubber really hits the road, what happens in this offseason, and how does this team change and try and get past what was an epic disappointment for this season?
Well, I'm going to throw out one more Tough Duck winner. Jack Bauer, you're winning the Tough Duck for a second hardest hitting comment. So send me a message at dave@illegalcurve.com, or you can DM me, slide into my DMs. I see Dave, and we'll hit you with the Tough Duck too, because you know what, Huss, it's too crazy. I'm going to give away the Moose tickets for Friday's game on Wednesday, because it's just too much stuff to do. I can't even focus on it all. Frosty Winnipeg hasn't yet told me that I should thank the sponsors, so I'm going to do that without prompting.
Hey, so, very quickly, before you do the sponsors and end off, and I know we did a bit of a Moose Minute, and forgive me if I missed this yesterday.
Go on.
But did you do a Moose Minute UFC version, talking about Mike Malott, Jeff Malott's brother, getting the knockout win in the octagon over Mickey Gall? How about that? And what a great story, hearing Malott talk about how all the guys agreed that they wouldn't look at their phones, got together after the game. And I can't imagine something that would be more exciting than watching your brother step into the octagon in a huge event like that. But pretty awesome week for the Malott bros, and big shout out to their family, and obviously the support he got from his Moose teammates was really cool to see.
Well, and so, okay, Huss, I mean, I've got nowhere to be. So if you want to keep riffing, we can keep riffing, right? I know you got a show tomorrow, so I don't want to keep you too late. It's only, but you know, the game ended early, so we can keep it going a little bit longer, because I'm not a big UFC fan by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I was more of a traditional boxing guy than UFC, but I have to say, like, you know, first of all, it was incredible. I liked the synergy that the UFC Canada and the Moose did. That was really good. Jeff Malott's a great kid. I mean, he's just he's got a really good head on his shoulders. I spoke to him after he signed his Jets contract last year, and he's 22 goals. He's earned himself another deal with well, I would think the Winnipeg Jets are going to come knocking to sign him up to keep him as part of this group. But the other thing that Mike Malott did, which I thought was incredible, is he donated his winnings. He's the lowest paid UFC guy in, like, I think one of the lowest paid guys I read, and he donated his money because his coach's daughter is suffering from childhood cancer, like a cancer that affects kids. So Mike Malott actually donated his winning. I think he won like $10,000 maybe for the win. The win was pretty sick, actually. Again, like I said, I'm no UFC fan, but like it was a pretty. I mean, and he was pretty savage the way he like stuck his tongue out with the blood all over it. But But regardless, you know what I mean, what a good gesture. And like, I think Jake Paul said he was going to match it and give $10,000. And like fans were actually giving him money. I don't know if he must have said something maybe when he was being interviewed by Joe Rogan, but like he was doing his post-fight interview, and he actually had like an envelope like stacked with bills that fans were handing him while he was leaving the ring because to make donations for his coach's daughter. So I thought that's a really remarkable thing, and I think it's a testament to what kind of family the Mullets are.
Yeah, well, Dana White should get off his ass and cut a check for Mike, because you should be paid to get in there and put your life on the line the way he did. And listen, I mean, there's a whole nother story. We won't waste our time with talking about it, but it takes a while to start earning big money in the UFC. You really do start at the bottom, and it's the top promotion. Guys will do whatever they can do to get there. But there's a lot of low paid wages at the bottom of the card so far. But anyways, I wanted to bring that up. I mean, really, really neat story. And we'll be talking about the Moose on the ice, but a great Moose connection to a pretty cool event that happened on the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And like I said, I watched the interview that the Moose posted of Jeff Molot talking about how all the teammates waited until after, so they could all watch it together. So what a great, moment for him and being able to share it. And you said it off the top when we were talking about the Moose to start. This team embodies that word team. And so for them to experience, I'm not surprised that they wanted to experience it like that. So a big thanks again to Andrew Hustler Patterson for joining me on the Illegal Curve postgame show. Thankfully, this is my last one that I'm not necessarily doing solo, because obviously Huss is here. Sean Reynolds, big step up as well. But we'll have the whole gang back together in theory. Who knows what happens? But Ezzy is back on Wednesday. Drew is back on Wednesday. So big thanks to Sean. Big thanks to Huss for joining me. And a big thank you to all of our sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the postgame show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rollies Transfer, and Grid Park. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Well, that's going to do it, Huss, for the Illegal Curve post-game show. I'm wiped. I've had a busy few days, and like I said, I really do appreciate you jumping on and having fun with me.
The pleasure was mine, but Dave, we're going to hit you up and get you on to talk Moose sometime on Winnipeg Sports Talk heading into the playoffs. You're booked for that. I'll just let you know when, as long as it works for you.
All right. Well, I'm always happy to join you, and I look forward to talking Moose anytime. I'll even have Drew send you my intro if you need it. Joking, of course. Anyways, thanks very much, everyone, for being part of the Tonight Show. We had a lot of fun. This has been the Illegal Curve postgame show.